Hello again, this is Mediator Yemi, continuing my musings in the realm of mediation. Last time I was here with you, I was pondering on this issue of confidentiality and how it affects us. Uh, you know, there's confidentiality, there's without prejudice, there's privilege, and so on and so forth. And do they all mean the same thing? Let's take this issue of confidentiality. What exactly am I being confidential about? What is it that is kept confidential? Is it the things that we say in the meeting, or is it actually the events around the entire meeting itself? Now, it is difficult to distinguish this, and let me explain this. You know, the last time we were speaking about parties challenging a mediation settlement agreement because they said the conduct of the mediation did not have sufficient neutrality, there was bias, there was manipulation. Now, you might be able to establish some of those things without necessarily going into the content of the proceedings. But what I've been thinking about is that in writing our confidentiality agreements, or in writing the confidentiality parts of our agreement to mediate, we must make it clear that the confidentiality and the non-prejudice goes both to the process itself, the proceedings as a whole, as well as the events during the proceeding and the things that are said. Now, it may seem like an innocuous distinction, but I'm beginning to find in one or two matters that have come to my knowledge, and there was even one that I had to give advice on. There can be a lot of difference sometimes between what happened generally and the actual proceeding, what was said, especially the things that may have been said in the private corpus. What do I suggest? When you do an agreement to mediate, I would like to have in my agreement not only a clear representation and warranty that the parties are responsible for their agreement, and I'll explain it to them. Let them know that they are responsible. It is their agreement, not mine, and let them agree with me. Number two, let them agree that it is not only what we say in the mediation that is confidential. In fact, the fact that we have a mediation itself is confidential. The fact that we even came together to try to resolve it this way itself is confidential. And we also agree, and this is where parties need to know the power of agreement here. Now, again, veering off a bit of mediation into a bit of law here. You know, representations and warranties, they go against you. If you have used your own hand to sign, you have agreed. And that is why when parties have signed an agreement to mediate, the mediator should ask them, do you understand everything that you've signed? Do you realize the implication of it, that this is what you're saying? And it should be recorded. And if there's something that they don't understand, it should be corrected. Because when that confidentiality comes, the parties should also be told that all records that are written in the confidentiality agreement will be destroyed immediately after. You can even put a time frame within 6 hours and will no longer exist. Now, you may think this is unusual, but many of my law practice colleagues will know that there are many confidentiality clauses in main commercial agreements where we agree that at the end of the transaction, all the documents which we exchanged, all the things which we said, will either be returned or will be destroyed. And I don't see why in a mediation context, when we have a confidentiality clause, we should not be able to insert such a clause that every record, every document, every note, whatever it is, immediately upon the execution of the mediation settlement agreement will be destroyed. And all originals will be returned to the owners if applicable. These things are important. And then the same thing now goes to the role of the mediator. There should be a clear and express agreement as an understanding, statement and representations and warranties, whatever those fancy words we use in law, to ensure that, you know what, it is not my agreement, it is your agreement. And when we sign the mediation settlement agreement, before we sign it, let's think. You know what happens when we used to have agreements signed by illiterates? And then an interpreter will interpret it to the illiterate. Remember that the illiterate jurat would be that it has been read to me. I have understood it. I have accepted it. And it is because I've accepted it that I've signed it. I think I'd like to put in my agreement, my mediation settlement agreement, that I have looked at it, I have read it, I have reviewed it. I am confirming, warranting, and representing that it is my agreement. I have neither been manipulated nor unduly influenced. I take full responsibility for this agreement and agree to be bound by it. And when the party has signed that himself, I believe it will become a little bit more difficult to walk away from it and to challenge it. So, there will never be an end to these thoughts. And I have a feeling that I'm going to continue these musings almost forever, but that is the nature of the beast. So, see you next time, and let's see what else is on my mind as we continue to go forward in our next episode. Until then, stay safe.